There is no timestamp on the text stream data, is my point. It's a derived value from the key on time, and then added to that is the elapsed time from the text stream. So they're separate.
Did you look at the data to make that determination that you're claiming right now? Did you actually look at the data?
Yes. Yeah.
You looked at the raw data?
I looked at, yes, the raw text stream data.
The raw text stream data from infotainment, did you look at it?
I just don't want to mince it. The text stream data is an independent system from the infotainment, and you said from, so they're not.
Did you look at the infotainment raw data?
I did.
Okay. And did you find a timestamp on the infotainment raw data?
Yes.
Now, when you added 3 seconds, you were trying to, in addition to the infotainment data, you were adding on the 3-second delay that now you're saying might not even be accurate. Is that fair to say?
I don't think I've ever said it's not accurate. I said that in the exemplar testing, they documented this behavior of a 3-second delay. And that needs to be accounted for if you're going to correct the timestamps. However, the caveat I put on that was only with one exemplar vehicle. So it could be that this behavior, the 3 seconds, is unique to the exemplar and would not apply to other similar vehicles. And so that's why I did either nothing or the 3, because there's nothing to support something in between.
So you disagree that the clock stamp on the infotainment module begins the run. You believe that there's potentially 3 seconds before when the ignition goes on that should be added to that time.
I know from testing other Toyota systems that the key on timer happens almost at the identical time that the vehicle is turned on. That timer starts running basically immediately.
But on this case, you don't know anything firsthand because you didn't do the testing yourself.
I don't know if it would specifically apply to this Lexus. I know that from other Toyota testing, but not this specific Lexus.
I'm sorry, finish.
No, I'm clarifying. I do know that from other Toyota and VCH systems, that key on timer is basically simultaneous with the key on. I have not tested it on this, and I don't believe that it was tested by Aperture when they had it either. They didn't document the accuracy of the run timer in their exemplar, so we don't know.
Well, you don't know that they didn't document that.
To be fair, if they did, it was not in their reports.
Right. So in this case, you said cars are different, and that's why you're hesitant to accept the fact that there's a 3-second delay. It's a yes or no question.
I'm saying we don't know. Had Aperture done testing with a separate vehicle, then we could establish, is the 3 seconds the same or is it unique? We don't know. The answer is we don't know.
And so when you are determining that 3-second variance, you don't have any assurance in your own mind whether or not this car, Ms. Reed's Lexus, has a 3-second variance. That's what you're trying to say.
That's correct. And that's why I run my calculations with and without it.
And the way you would determine that is to actually do testing or look at the data.
More testing, I think, is the only way that would be able to be determined.
Now, let's turn to slide 9. As part of your charts, could you enlarge the left, please? As part of your charts, you took this chalk from Attorney Burgess's report and you made some assumptions about this, didn't you?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I applied the numbers in his third column to the times. So, I mean, that's the extent of the analysis.
When you looked at the first 5 columns, 1:14, 13 a.m., 4:38, 16 a.m., 4:42:06 a.m., 4:45, 12 a.m., and 5:04, 28 a.m.
5:04, 27.
You said on direct examination, oh boy. You said on direct examination that was matching infotainment to iPhone.
That's what it says on the chart. So
Okay.
that's probably what I said. I don't remember specifically, but that's what the chart says.
Is that your opinion that those first 5 columns are matching infotainment to iPhone?
The chart says infotainment call timestamp in column 1. It says O'Keefe iPhone call timestamps in column 2, and then it says offset. So I'm taking that at face value.
You're basing your later charts on the predicate that these numbers
That your previous
on
witness
that
was
column
right.
are infotainment compared to John O'Keefe's iPhone, aren't you?
Based on the chart, yes.
You didn't do any study on your own to determine the genesis of that information, did you?
I'm aware of the fact that these calls, the 5 you mentioned, were placed when the vehicle was in a keyed off state. I'm aware of that.
What I asked you specifically is, on those 5 columns, did you do any research or study to determine whether or not it was infotainment matched to John O'Keefe's iPhone or some other phone matched to John O'Keefe's iPhone? Did you do any independent studies about that?
No.
Because in your ultimate conclusions and all the charts you've given to the jury and shown the jury, it relies on the conclusion that the first 5 columns are a comparison between infotainment clock and John O'Keefe's iPhone. Isn't that fair to say?
That's exactly how the chart presents it, and that's how I present it.
Did you know that at 1:14:13 a.m. the defendant's Lexus was turned off?
Yes.
Did you know at 4:38:16 a.m. that the defendant's Lexus was turned off?
Yes.
And did you know for 4:42:06, 4:45:12, 5:04:28, did you know that her Lexus was turned off?
Yes.
Do you know that when you make phone calls, oh, by the way, do you know on those different times, the first 5 times, where that information is generated from?
Which column?
Left column, 1:14:13, all the way down to 5:04:28. Those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 calls. Do you know where that information came from?
It came from the SD card from the infotainment.
Do you know where the genesis, the beginning, the source of that information? That matters, right? The source?
It would.
It would. Do you know where it came from?
The assumption, the assumption is if the vehicle has a timestamp and the phone wasn't connected, it would have been synchronized after the fact. But that wasn't tested. And Aperture didn't do any of that testing in their work to look at the behavior of a timestamp in the infotainment when a phone is synchronized after the fact.
Blaming Aperture is not going to get you out of answering the question. Did you know?
Sustained.
Sure.
Oh, we got a sidebar.
Do you know the genesis, the source of those 4 numbers?
Definitively no.
Your entire premise for your slides and values and ranges depends on knowing the genesis of those numbers, doesn't it?
I relied on Mr. Burgess's explanation that those times were synchronized after the fact.
Did you know that those are all phone calls from the defendant's phone to Mr. O'Keefe's phone?
Yes.
You did know that.
I know that they're phone calls
From who?
between. Sorry, can you maybe just state it more clearly? Because I'm not sure. I don't want to fumble through an answer if I don't understand the question. So
Do you know where those calls came from? The source.
a phone,
Whose?
Miss Reed's phone.
Now, I know you're not an expert on mobile devices, but did you know when it's not a contemporaneous synchronization, you plug your phone in, it's going to register on the infotainment system, but come from the phone.
Objection.
Sustained.
Do you know when someone plugs their phone in after they turn the car back on, how it synchronizes on the infotainment system?
I don't know if adjustments are made to those times during a synchronization or not. I think that's something that could be tested, and to my knowledge, was not tested.
If you don't know, then your conclusions and all your opinions to this jury is based on an assumption that you don't even know the predicate for. Isn't that fair to say?
My conclusions are based on all of the data that Mr. Burgess laid out. So he laid these out and went so far as to calculate the offsets himself. So there's something implied in his table by virtue of him calculating these that maybe he would decide to align them. And so, again, to provide the clarity on all the possible alignments, I included them.
But that's not what I asked. If you're making an improper assumption about the predicate, about these calls and the source of them, and you're wrong, that would change your entire analysis and conclusions and charts that we see in your later charts, wouldn't it?
Sure, if there was testing that showed that that is an invalid method on this specific Lexus and SD card, then of the 30 possibilities, some of them would end up being eliminated.
Did you know that when an iPhone is plugged into a car, it downloads the information from the iPhone on the infotainment system? You know that?
I don't know how the clocks are synchronized when you plug an iPhone into a car.
Well, if you don't know, how can you make conclusions based on a predicate you don't even know what it is?
Then
The conclusions are based on the data in Mr. Burgess's report.
no
I
longer
know you're on
get signed that.
devices,
Objection.
but I
So I'm going to strike that. Go ahead and ask your question.
My apologies. If you have two different devices, a Lexus clock, the entertainment system, and an iPhone, you would agree that it's not unexpected to be variances, correct?
Correct.
When you're comparing two iPhones, do you have an opinion, do you agree that you would expect the variance to be very small, iPhone to iPhone?
I don't know.
Have you ever studied that before?
Two iPhones?
Yes.
No.
So as you sit there today, you don't have any expertise, any education, any knowledge about how closely two iPhones would sync with each other?
No.
Do you see in the first five columns the numbers are small, 22121?
Yes.
Would you agree iPhone to iPhone using the same source of time is generally going to be within 1 or 2 seconds of each other?
Objection.
Sustained.
Do you have any opinion about whether iPhones to iPhones will generally be within 1 to 2 seconds of each other?
Objection.
You can ask if there's an opinion. Do you have an opinion on that?
No.
Next question.
If the first 5 calls are iPhone to iPhone rather than infotainment to iPhone, you agree all of your assumptions and conclusions are inaccurate.
They're not iPhone to iPhone in the sense that column 1 came from the infotainment. The values were read from the SD card. So there's an assumption baked into it. What you're saying that when a phone is synchronized, the infotainment assumes the times of the phone, but we don't know whether the infotainment would adjust those times to its own clock or not.
You're speculating now, aren't you?
We don't know. It wasn't tested. I don't know is the
You
answer.
don't know.
I don't know.
You don't know.
I do not.
Okay. Don't say we don't know. You don't know.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
So this is iPhone to iPhone. Then your assumption on the first 5, 12121. If they're iPhone to iPhone and you're wrong about the fact it's infotainment to iPhone, your assumptions and conclusions are inaccurate, aren't they?
Objection.
I'll allow this.
If the title of the first column had iPhone in it as well, then I would not have used it in my analysis.
But that's not the question. I appreciate that. My question is, if those first 5 calls were iPhone time to iPhone time, and you mistakenly analyze them as infotainment time to iPhone time, then the rest of your assumptions and charts would be an accurate objection.
Sustain.
At 5:21:36, do you know whether or not the defendant's Lexus was on?
I don't recall if that one was an on or an off point. I don't want to guess. I don't recall.
And so if you don't know if that was on or off, were you able to do an analysis whether this was phone to phone or infotainment to phone?
No.
5:30:31, do you know if the defendant's car was on?
That one I know the vehicle was on.
That's one timestamp on the infotainment system, 5:30:31, correct?
Correct.
And then in the O'Keefe iPhone call timestamps, there are two different numbers, 5:30:15, 5:30:52. Yes?
Yes.
Right. And do you appreciate that that is two separate calls, or do you think it's something different?
I'm going to paraphrase again Mr. Birch's report as I recall it, in that he stated during the testing they did with the exemplar, calls placed in close succession would not necessarily both be logged in the infotainment. So as I understand this chart, what he's trying to say here is there were two calls placed, there were two call logs in Mr. O'Keefe's phone, but only one timestamp in the infotainment, and he couldn't determine which it corresponded to because of that observed behavior from testing.
I'm asking if you know.
I don't.
Did you ever look at phone records for the defendant or for Mr. O'Keefe to make a determination whether these are two separate calls or not? Did you ever do that?
No.
If these are two separate calls, can you explain to us why there is one timestamp?
Again, as I stated, that was behavior that was observed. The exact behavior was observed during the exemplar testing by Aperture. I don't know why that happens. Why does the infotainment not log every call? I don't. But I know that it was documented that that is a feature of this system.
This information
Beta.
is not taken from the exemplar vehicle, was it?
This table, no.
This information was taken from the infotainment system of the defendant's car, isn't that true?
Yes.
And the phone calls were taken from Mr. O'Keefe's iPhone, isn't that true?
Yes.
And so, you know why there would be two phone calls and only one timestamp?
Beyond the testing, the exemplar testing that showed an exemplar vehicle did that, no, I don't know why it happens.
Do you know that the infotainment system doesn't always capture all of the phone calls and the phone data in the download? Did you know that?
Yes.
Well, if you know that, can you conclude that even though there's two calls and only one timestamp, that's because how the infotainment system works?
I think that's the most logical assumption, that that's how it works.
So
Sorry.
if you look at 5:30:52, bottom middle, and 5:30:52, it is impossible to tell which one relates to the 5:30:31 infotainment compare. Impossible, right?
Yes.
So there's two possibilities.
Yes.
One is that you have a difference, a disparity of 16 seconds.
Yes.
And the other one, going the opposite way, is a disparity of 21 seconds.
Correct.
And so when you add those disparities,
You
He is
okay?
such a prick. Yeah,
Oh, was it Felix?
I'm.
Oh, Hannon.
Yeah, I might
Oh,
take you up
Felix.
on that. I might take you up on that cat trap, fuckers.
Oh, that other freaking cat again?
Yeah.
Oh, God. Assholes.
it's 16 seconds
Now-
different than 5.
I can't pause from. I had to lay down. Sorry, I can't pause. I can mute, but I can't pause or anything. So from here, I can turn it on and off and shut it down or whatever. But I don't know if you can pause from
No.
your end. Okay,
No,
that's all right.
I can't.
Just so you know.
And I couldn't unmute it either.
No.
We didn't miss much, though.
What do you get?
You're saying if maybe so I can be clear what you're asking, if we have a negative 16 and we have a positive 5:21. How many seconds are in between there?
Exactly.
5.
37?
And so you can see, did you know that the next card was turned on at 5:07 a.m.? That ring a bell?
I don't have any of those key-ons committed to memory.
So you can see between 5:21 and 5:30, the offset is different between them, which shows that variances change. They move.
That seems reasonable, yes.
But when I said it seems reasonable, do you have the experience and the knowledge to
Oh,
agree
you
with
are
me
such
that
a
variances
cunt.
move?
I
Yes, they do.
fucking hate
Okay.
this man. Oh, just the arrogance of the fucking, the
If
gall.
those first 5 calls were iPhone to iPhone rather than infotainment to iPhone, would you agree they should not have been considered in your analysis?
Do you notice that it's all bullshit questions?
Yeah.
Yes. With the caveat that because this is a novel analysis with this SD card and this infotainment, that it was demonstrated that that's the behavior. My
I hope
opinions
the jury
on things
picks
like that
up
are based on testing and research and literature. And so when we have a brand new system with new data, we want to see some testing to prove it works the way we think it works. But under the assumption, then yes,
You would agree.
yes.
If we turn to 10, please.
He's making it all about mobile phone timing, and it's got
Oh,
nothing
and
to
it's
do
all
with it.
about seconds. Like, give me a fucking
Yeah,
break.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
making me sleepy too.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
Given-
doing Jenny's
could you-
avatar.
could you,
What with this?
Zoom in a little, please,
Oh,
on the
you're
left.
on then now twice, Jody. Oh,
What
bedroom
was that?
studio. Oh, God.
Given that
Yeah.
You're
these
in the
data
bedroom
points
studio now.
I
come
am.
at 5 in the morning, or 1, 4, 4, 4, 5, 5, and 5:30. Did you consider whether they would be less reliable than comparing to the triggering event, the 3-point turn at 12:23 the night before? Did you consider that?
Yes.
When you said you reviewed and you're critiquing reports, did you read Mr. Burgess's report on May 8, 2025?
Yes.
Did you
Yeah.
read in his report where he explains that this is a less reliable method to, it's a less reliable method because of the time distance between the actual event we're interested
Shannon
in,
Burgess is a
11:62,
less reliable method.
31, 43 to 48, than the 3-point turn.
He hasn't even got a fucking Bachelor of Science.
When he explains that
He's
the
got an associate
method-
degree. Associate diploma or something, hasn't he?
Even I'm more educated than he
of
is.
using 5:21
You are.
and 5:30
You are.
on January 29, 2022, he explains
Left is
about
more
how-
educated than
the information is stored in the infotainment system when it's powered back on, doesn't he?
I'm not sure.
Well, do you remember when you were reviewing his report that he explains the available call log correlation is restricted to a time frame between 5:21 and 5:30 a.m. on January 29, 2022, when the vehicle was powered on. All other calls stored in the infotainment module occurred while the vehicle was powered off, indicating those entries were synced from Miss Reed's iPhone upon reconnecting to the system on the morning of January 29th. You considered that when
That's
you
bullshit. Your phone
decided or
doesn't sync the
formulated your
time with
critique,
the
didn't you?
infotainment system.
Yes.
This
No,
further
but he's talking
indicated
about
that
the
the
Wi-Fi.
associated timestamps for those calls originated from Miss Reed's iPhone. Did you read that?
Yes.
Relative to those first 5 columns, correct?
Yes.
take that
This
fucking
behavior was
country
previously documented in the initial report, which is the January 30th report. Yes?
Yes.
You shrugged. I mean, I don't want you just to agree with me. Do you remember it was in the January 30th report?
I don't remember how he phrased it specifically. But I think there was somewhere around there where he noted that some calls were placed while the vehicle was off. I think that's basically what it said in the first one. I don't remember specifically.
Okay.
And why
Do you
would
agree
John
generally, or
give
can I
his
give you the
phone
report? You
to
can look
Karen
and
Starr?
remind yourself. I want to get your best memory on this.
Sure.
What would you like me to do?
If you'd like me to look at it, I'll look at it.
Sure.
Do-
Do you
do
have a
you
copy?
have
Or
the-
would you like me to bring it
Do you
to
have the reports with you, sir?
not.
Okay. Do you have an extra copy for him, Mr. Brennan?
Mine is marked. You want me to show the mark? Let me see if I can get a clean copy for the witness.
What?
Chop, chop. Make it quick. Make it snappy. Come on. That's what he's like. Let's get a copy for the witness.
A clean copy that I haven't written all over.
Yeah.
I don't have a
Oh,
clean
Thane
copy. I
Rivers
don't
is
want to
doing
show
my
you
morning
something that has
cheer.
my writing on it. Not that I care that you read it, but it's protocol. Okay.
Mhm.
In discussing why this is not an effective way of matching the time, did you consider in his May 8, 2025 report, when he's talking about this method, when he says, as a result, this method yields a single reference point for potential alignment?
Yes.
Yeah.
Call logs are discrete points.
I'm sorry?
The call logs are discrete points for alignment. Is that?
As a result, this method yields a single reference point, which is referring to the 53031.
I don't know. It sounds like it, but I don't know.
From the 5:21 a.m.
That's
to
what
5:30
Hank's
a.m.
doing.
window of Watch Street Proctor.
You know how his audio's going in and out? He's walking around, flailing around, doing the whole theatrics.
Well, I think they should be made to wear a headset if they're going to walk around and not
Yeah.
near their microphone. They get up the bloody witnesses. Oh, put your
Yeah.
mouth closer to the microphone.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
he's doing
Jesus.
the whole theatrical thing.
Waving his arms around and shit.
Yeah, yeah,
To allow it, unless, do you have, I'll see counsel at sidebar.
yeah. That's exactly what he's doing.
Oh, sidebar. Bar.
He's making a big deal out of it,
Mm.
pacing backwards and
Yeah,
forwards
that's
from the podium.
But they're only talking about freaking seconds. What?
I know.
How does seconds come into this? Like, I don't know. They're just dickheads, really.
Mhm.
But they're not worried about tenths of a mile.
What all this
But they're
time
worried
is
about
spent?
seconds.
All this time is spent on arguing about whether the fucking phones match the infotainment system to a 3-point fucking turn, which means nothing.
I know.
The 3-point turn did not fucking kill John. Like, move on, idiots.
Well, which 3-point turn are you talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is just ridiculous. I think he's just wasting everybody's time.
You're not
really.
going to. You're not going to drive forward. What did they say? 82 feet or something in total, or 50, even 59 feet was the first one.
No, backwards 87 feet. So she went forwards 34 feet, then went backwards 34 feet, and then went further because back to the starting point where she went forwards, and then backwards
You're gonna do that?
another 53
Yeah.
feet.
I was listening to someone this afternoon in my slumber, and I can't remember who. I think it might have been lawyer, and I think he mapped it out on like a scaled map of Fairview Road, how far away that was from the fucking driveway, and
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. Why would you back all the way back to the? I
to
don't
do a 3-point
understand. Why would
turn
you?
there. Yeah, why go
Yeah.
that far?
Yeah,
To,
and I mean, in the middle of the night, the road seemed pretty decently wide. It was at least 2 cars wide. Why wouldn't you just chuck
Yeah,
a
but it
Yui
was-
right there and do your 3-point turn?
but the accuracy of going that far back and actually making contact with John gives him 60 feet of warning as well. Like,
Sir, going back to my
Let him know she
question,
was
so
coming.
you read Mr. Burgess' report, the same report that you're critiquing, and you were aware of this information, weren't you?
Yes.
And so you were aware that Mr. Burgess in his May 8th report was identifying that
that he's still a fuckwit.
the section in green was the only contemporaneous information for analysis. Did you know that?
That he deemed.
Is that how he states it specifically?
I can read it again. I just read it to you.
If you
Oh,
don't mind.
Okay.
you didn't say, I quote.
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Let's give him a copy. Does he
Yeah.
have the clean copy?
I'd need a coffee, that's for sure. I love the bloody text things. Closed captions, I kind of get it wrong sometimes.
Uh-huh.
You,
You can turn to page 3.
Please.
What I read to you was where it says clock sync method 1. Do you see that?
yes.
And this is, if you look at the second paragraph, I read that to you word for word. Do you see that?
Yes.
I hope Jackson prepped him.
5:21 a.m. and 5:30 a.m.
Oh,
are
I
the
think
only
he's
2 data
answering
points
very well. He's not evading
when that
anything,
car
you know.
was on January 29, 2022. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And if you look at the last paragraph, do you agree or disagree? As a result, this method yields a single reference point for potential alignment. Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
No.
Mhm.
I got a
Because
good-
you still are under the mistaken belief that
Sustain.
you still have the opinion that the first 5 rows are an infotainment to iPhone analysis.
It's presented as that way in his initial report, which is what my initial analysis was based on. And in the supplemental report, there's no further testing to say one way or the other. He just has a new opinion. So I stand by the initial analysis that I had, that those points should be included with all of the other points.
But that's not my question. My question is, you are taking the position those first 5 calls are an infotainment to iPhone analysis.
They could be, and so I include them. I'm not saying they definitively are or not, which is why I never say there is one way to do it. That's why I say there's a whole host of ways to do it.
So you're now saying that you're not assuming that's an infotainment to iPhone analysis. Are you now saying that?
He's not assuming, it says it on the friggin' document, mate.
It's stated that way, and I think it could be that way. But it might be iPhone to iPhone too, if those times are just copied over.
And if it was iPhone to iPhone, your analysis would be wrong.
Certain lines would go away.
Do you know that?
So if you want to call the whole analysis wrong because of that, it might be your characterization.
Okay.
It would change the total number of possibilities.
So if we put up chart 12, page 12, please.
Wrong at school is how great Marcia is at this, or how wonderful Marcia did that.
Arca.
If you were wrong about the infotainment to iPhone analysis and those first 5 should not be considered, which part of your chart would now be wrong?
What do we have? 12 lines on the chart?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, we have 12 lines on the
He's
chart.
counting.
If we decided to eliminate the lines that are based on the calls when the vehicle was off, we would be left with 4 lines on the chart.
And if we turn to 14, please. And if you could enlarge, well, I don't think you can enlarge it. If your analysis about infotainment to iPhone was wrong, you would agree those first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns should not be there, should they?
No, the positive 16 stays, the negative 21 stays, 1, 2, 8, and 20 would go away. So we'd lose 4 lines from this chart.
And the negative 16 line, that comes from information at 5:30 a.m. the next morning.
Correct.
And you would agree that that distance is not as accurate as queuing it from the 3-point turn event 11:62:1.
The 3-point turn is closer in time than the call at 5:32,
And thus more reliable, wouldn't you say?
generally.
And the negative 21, that was from 5:30 and some seconds the next morning. Same idea, not as reliable as the 3-point turn
There's
information.
greater uncertainty the farther in time we get.
So when we turn to the 3-point turn information,
Come on.
you mentioned in Dr. Welcher's report that it was noted that the timestamp 154 was the end of the 3-point turn event, correct?
That's how he states it.
And then more information was provided when Mr. Burgess then broke down that 154 timestamp, correct?
Correct.
And when he broke down the 154 timestamp, he actually wrote a report about it, didn't he?
Yes.
He didn't just have it in his head. He put it on paper for all to see, yes?
Yes.
Oh, he puts lots of things
And
on
in that
paper for all to
report,
see.
not only does he break down the data, he also shows
That
the
he can
visual,
lie about
the actual
education.
data on a map, doesn't he?
He does.
I cannot stand this man. Kitty hand that man, the ground's a spinner. Remember that ad?
Yes.
Yes. Exhibit 192A. Okay. Let's start with 192B, please. If you could
Oh, he said
open that up so
please.
we could see it a little better.
Oh my God.
Mm.
When you look at the data he actually broke down, do you agree that instead of at the end of the three-point turn event as timestamp 154, that actually is at the beginning of the three-point turn? Do you agree with that?
I don't know if the points are numbered on here, so I can't tell which point he's referencing as 154.
Do you see the green circle?
Yes.
Do you see the black line?
Yes.
Does that orient you to the direction the car was traveling?
That appears to be what he's trying to convey with this chart.
And then the yellow is facing a different direction towards Fairview, correct?
It is.
And do you see the green square rectangle?
Yes.
You think that correlates to the green circle?
That seems to be what this graph implies.
And it notes that
So ask it differently, Mr. Bowman.
does that heading note the start of the three-point turn of O'Keefe's phone is 12:23:59?
I'm going to allow it.
No.
That's what Mr. Burgess states in the report.
And do you have any information to suggest that's not spot on accurate?
No, I didn't do an independent analysis of the three-point turn maneuver.
And then the heading of the change, end of three-point turn to O'Keefe's home, 12:24:07. Do you have any information to suggest that's not spot on accurate?
I did not analyze the three-point turn maneuver.
And so when you look at that and break down 154, did you determine or make an analysis that 154 that was generally accepted, because there is variances between items, when you break it down with more specificity, 154 is actually earlier than the three-point turn conclusion? Did you consider that?
I'm going to allow that, yeah.
Oh.
Of course you're going to all out, bitch.
I'm not sure I understand the question, if you don't mind.
You mentioned Dr. Welch's report said it relied on 154 as a timestamp for the end of the three-point turn.
Yes.
Based on Mr. Burgess's May 8th report and based on the data, which you don't contest, you now agree that 154 was not the end of that three-point turn. It was at the beginning.
Based on how Mr. Burgess presents it, I didn't do an independent analysis. So I'm not on one side with Mr. Burgess or one side with Dr. Welcher. They present independent methods.
Are you suggesting in any way it's inaccurate?
Oh.
Are you suggesting it is in any way inaccurate?
I'm going to
He
allow
said the
that.
same question.
Yeah.
I don't have any opinions as to the individual accuracy of the methods selected by either Mr. Burgess or Dr. Welcher.
Do you have any information you'd like to add or weigh in on to dispute the accuracy of those times?
Sustained.
And let's turn to the previous exhibit so we can actually see the data that's broken down. You could open that.
Use your manners.
154 timestamp, if you go to the left, please. Do you see that right above the green line?
Yes.
12:23:58. You see that?
Yes.
And then the green goes to the orange, and that's an 8-second difference, isn't it?
Yes,
And when you looked at this, you considered that this was a more detailed study of that timestamp by Mr. Burgess, right?
more detailed is, yes, that's
And,
correct.
and do you know why he did a more detailed analysis of this? Why it wasn't in
Because
the
he was
original
asked to.
PowerPoint?
No, I don't.
Well, you said that variances are generally accepted in the community, right?
Yes,
But then you wrote a report suggesting numbers and additions, and you submitted that report as part of the basis of your testimony, right?
I only submitted a PowerPoint. I have no
The
report.
PowerPoint. And after you submitted the PowerPoint, isn't it fair to say Mr. Burgess then analyzed this data to be more specific after you introduced your PowerPoint?
Yes,
So can you guess why he went through a more detailed analysis?
no,
Sustain. Strike it.
In the final exhibit? Let's go back to the data. You said that Mr. Burgess had an 8-second range, 21 to 29 seconds, remember?
yes,
And you were suggesting that somehow there was some uncertainty. Do you remember that?
yes.
Okay. Are you guessing about his state of mind, whether he was certain or not? Do you know
He's getting
why
frustrated.
he gave an 8-second range?
Mm.
Objection.
So ask it differently, Mr.
Okay. You suggested the reason why there's an 8-second range is that Mr. Burgess was uncertain. Remember saying that to this jury?
Not in those exact words, but that's what uncertainty is. Uncertainty is a range. If we don't know a specific value, we put a range around it. That's uncertainty. That's a
This data from the green, you agree it indicates the beginning of the three-point turn.
So he's walked away again.
At the end of the car,
Yeah.
motion at 11.2 miles per hour. Objection.
I'm going to allow it. Do you agree with that?
I
Do you
see
agree with
speed
that?
values there. I see some headings. I can't convert GPS in my head, so I don't know.
You could have analyzed this data yourself, right? Before you came in and gave an opinion.
I could have.
But you didn't.
I did not.
Do you have any reason to test the accuracy of this data that's been broken? No objection.
I'm going to allow that.
Oh,
And so by giving the range of 8 seconds, you talked about looking at different values to be fair, wide range, right? Even though this analysis depends on
wait for Jackson's
the end of the
redirect.
three-point turn,
Mm.
would you agree it's kind of forgiving to give that 8-second range to give the benefit of the doubt by starting at the beginning of the three-point turn all the way to the end of it rather than just giving the end point?
As to that form, ask it differently, Mr.
8-second range that is provided by Mr. Burgess coincide with the data, the 8-second range.
What are you doing?
That's where he comes up with the 8-second range. Correct.
And so
I'm emptying my bucket.
The matching times at the end of the
Plugging in
event.
my bike.
Going back to the beginning, isn't that even more forgiving than the 8-side objection?
I'm going to allow it.
I'm going
course
to
you
allow.
are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would call it a conservative approach to use a range of values.
The
Mr. Brennan,
opposite
can
of
you get
cherry
under my
picking,
robes
right?
later?
Sure.
Well, she's important now. She's person.
Do you have an
here.
opinion to a reasonable degree of forensic data certainty
Oh, you didn't hold your witness to that?
about whether text stream data provides data reflecting whether a collision actually occurred?
No.
In your opinion, to a reasonable degree of forensic certainty, is the text stream data would not reflect the collision, correct?
That's not what I said. I don't have an opinion.
And you know that there can be collisions or touching between vehicle, and it's not going to appear on the text stream data. You know that, right?
It's possible.
It's possible. Did you know that the defendant's vehicle at 5:07
Oh my
a.m.
God.
on January 29, 2022 bumped into a different car?
Yes.
Do you see that reflected on the text stream data?
I'm thinking back to when I reviewed the raw text stream data, and I don't remember seeing an event from that.
I can't really
I
hear
don't
you.
remember seeing an event from that time in the text stream data.
Well, you don't remember seeing it. It's not there, is it?
I don't think it is. I don't remember seeing it. I don't think there's one.
You're not.
I was going to finish and say I don't have all of the events committed to memory. There's
Yep.
19 of them.
I'm sorry.
There's 19 events. I don't have them all committed to memory.
You're not testifying or offering an opinion that there was no collision with this car that night, are you?
No.
Because if you were implying that or suggesting that or insinuating that, that would be misleading, wouldn't it?
Oh,
It's not-
let's talk about
Justine.
misleading, shall we?
I have no further questions.
Fuck off. And take the fucking donkey with you.
Yes.
You were asked a number of questions a few minutes ago by Mr. Brennan concerning your expertise. I'm just going to grab a pen.
Jenny, do you have green eyes or brown eyes?
Ha.
They look brown
Specifically,
in
you
your
were asked
photos.
about your expertise regarding mobile data devices. Mobile
Cool.
devices and their data, correct?
Yes.
And were you being truthful when you indicated that you were not an expert in
Yes.
that field? Were you being truthful when you indicated that you have a certain expertise in EDR data?
Yes.
Yes.
Were you being truthful when you indicated that you did review Mr. Burgess's data and Mr. Welcher's data as reflected in their reports and PowerPoints?
Yes.
Were you being truthful about your credentials?
Yes.
Have you ever lied about your credentials?
No.
You hold a bachelor's degree
Yes.
and you hold a master's degree.
I do.
You ever lied to anybody about that?
No.
Fucking
Mr.
go.
DeSogra, what is the only reason you amended your PowerPoint presentation from its original version?
No, I
to
did
the
them
one
dark
that you
green, so that's
most
good, Jen.
recently amended it to?
To include the additional analysis and data points from Mr. Burgess's supplemental report, the
So-
May 8th report.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Go
The
ahead.
May 8th report.
So you amended yours because he amended his.
Correct.
You were asked just a second ago about all the text stream events that you noted on Ms. Reed's SUV, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Brennan asked you about a specific text stream event at or around 5:07 in the morning, and whether you had something like that committed to memory, correct?
Yes.
You said, I don't have them all committed to memory, right?
I don't.
What did you say after that? Because there's how many?
It was 19 events prior to 1162-2, 19 other events.
How about after 1162?
There were a number after 1162-2. I don't have the exact count in my head.
How about after 1162, just on January 29th, going into January 30th?
There were other events.
How many?
I don't recall the exact number.
Does 11 sound right?
That it sounds plausible. I recall seeing in the chart. I recall seeing a number of events after.
Would it refresh your recollection to look at a chart?
It would. Thank you.
So 11 more events between.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Between the time of the U-turn, like, because I mean, they had to get it on the truck and I don't know, other things. I
Yeah,
guess.
there are a lot. I would have to really use my finger to count them all.
Okay, more than 8,
Total after 1162-2.
only on the 29th.
There aren't date stamps on these because this chart is the raw text stream data, which doesn't have timestamps.
Safe to say, there are many, right?
Yes.
May I approach?
Yes.
And again, this goes back to a question that you were asked by Mr. Brennan. I want to follow up on. In no instance were any of those related to a collision, to your knowledge, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Were any of those that you reviewed at any time the lifetime of the vehicle related to a collision?
None of them were triggered by a collision.
Thank you. I want to ask you a hypothetical, if I could, based on questioning by Mr. Brennan surrounding the 12/32/09 lock event. Do you remember him asking you about those questions, about that event?
Yes.
Your analysis was based on the time span. Let me rephrase that. Was your analysis based on Mr. Burgess's and Mr. Welcher's analyses together of a span of time between the 1162-2 text stream event or trigger event and the lock event at 12/32/09?
Objection.
So the question is that what he's considering?
Correct. In other words, was he basing his opinion or analysis on that time frame, at least in part?
So I'll let that question stand.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. If you were told that there was another interaction phone event on John O'Keefe's phone at 12/32/16 in the form of steps taken, 36 steps over the course of 83 feet, would that change your analysis or opinion in any way?
Objection.
I'll allow that in that form.
Yes.
In what way?
If the phone event moves from 12/32/09 to 12/32/16, then of the 30 possibilities I had in the chart, all of them would become positive. That would mean that that interaction occurs after the end of the vehicle event every single time. Instead of, it was 25 for 30 in the original analysis, the hypothetical would change it to 30 for 30.
All of them, all 30 of them would occur at a point in time. Let me rephrase that. All of them would reflect a scenario in which the phone interaction took place after the trigger event.
That's correct.
Thank you.
That's convenient.
If you were told, to give you another hypothetical, if you were told that there was a Doppler state event on the phone, pocket state event on the phone at 12/33/14, would that impact your opinion in any way?
Objection.
Sustained.
Why?
You were asked several questions about what you believed Mr. Burgess may have gotten wrong in terms of his original report and one of his original analyses dealing with bits and bytes. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Did Mr. Burgess,
Hold on.
of course,
You need to, we have to turn the fans off.
and I'm not speaking loud enough?
Right.
I'm sorry. I'll raise my voice.
Oh,
I just don't
shit.
want to scream over people, but I will raise my voice.
Let's try this for a few minutes.
May I start again?
That question, yes.
Thank you.
Snarly bitch.
You were asked about whether or not you believed that Mr. Burgess was incorrect in terms of certain analyses he undertook or reflected in his original report back in January of 2025, correct?
Correct.
As it relates to the bits and bytes, did you find that Mr. Burgess was incorrect or correct about his analysis concerning the size of the data set collected based on bits versus bytes?
He was incorrect.
Explain that to the jurors very briefly.
These are just different units. A bit is a different size than a byte. And so if a size for something is listed in bits, for example, and you look at the data and assume it's in bytes, you will assume it's the wrong size.
Which Mr. Burgess did based on your review of his report, correct?
Correct.
I want to change gears and ask a different question or series of questions about the text stream data versus the infotainment system data, specifically the timestamps associated therewith. Is there a timestamp associated with text stream data?
In this case, no.
Okay. Is there a timestamp associated with infotainment system data?
Yes.
All right.
I'll be back in a sec.
Yeah.
Won't be long.
The infotainment system data, well, let me see if I can ask it a different way. Where did the 3-second delay come from? Your analysis of Mr. Burgess's review of the text stream data, or his review of the infotainment system data?
The 3 seconds came, well, fundamentally it came from the exemplar testing, where he identified, and he was actually, well, Aperture collectively in that testing identified a difference between when the button was pushed and the time that showed up in the infotainment. But they didn't actually look at, as far as I know, or at least it wasn't provided if they did, how that specifically related to the key on timer itself. But they showed that the button is pushed, there's a 3-second delay, and then the time gets logged.
When that button is pushed with the infotainment system, I'm going to rephrase again, so I'm as clear as I can be. When that button is pushed for the on event, the key on event, is that like a stopwatch? Click, a stopwatch starts running? Timer?
In the VCH system, yes.
Okay. Separate and apart from the VCH system, is there an infotainment system that also has a timer or a clock on it?
As a clock,
Are those two things independent of one another?
completely independent.
What were you doing with regard to the 3-second delay as it relates to the key on event and the infotainment system event to marry those two things together?
Right. I'm making the adjustment, or proposing that adjustment can be made, because the key on timer is going to start generally as soon as the vehicle powers on. But the infotainment, when you go and download the data, it will say, hey, I think I powered on at this time, and it turns out that time is actually 3 seconds off. So if you're going to then apply the infotainment time anywhere else to VCH data, you've got to realign the two. And that's where the 3 seconds comes from, is these are independent data sources.
Did Mr. Burgess, to your review of his, insofar as your review of his analysis, his report is concerned, did he align the two vis-a-vis the 3-second delay?
No, he did not.
Thank you. With the court's permission, may we have slide 10 of the PowerPoint of,
Okay.
and that is, we've talked a lot about PowerPoints of Mr. DESOGRA's PowerPoint. Can you highlight the table on the left, Mr. Wolk? Thank you. Did you create this table?
No,
Was this table, I don't know if you call it cut and paste or if there's some better engineering term for it, was it basically pulled from Mr. Burgess's report?
it was. It was a
Did you type-
it was a screenshot.
Thank you, screenshot. Did you type a single word? Engineering term for it, was it basically pulled from Mr. Burgess's report?
It was. It was
Did
a
you type-
It was a screenshot.
Thank you, screenshot. Did you type a single word on this?
I did not. I added a green box.
Put a green box around it.
Yes,
You didn't type anything on this.
I did not.
Put it in the green box.
You were asked a ton of questions just a few minutes ago about whether or not the column on the left and the center column were reflective of an infotainment timestamp versus an iPhone to iPhone timestamp, correct?
That's right.
Mr. Brennan asked you a bunch of questions about that left column being an iPhone timestamp, at least the top 5 rows of it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. Remember that?
Yes.
Read the name that Mr. Burgess labeled that column.
Infotainment call timestamps.
So what as an expert, what did you presume he, as an expert, was presuming?
Objection.
Sustain.
What did you presume that meant to you, just to you?
Call
There's a certain
timestamps
expectation.
from the infotainment.
So if anything is wrong with your analysis, would it be based on Mr. Burgess being wrong in his analysis?
Sustain.
Oh, sustain what? You twat.
May I have just a moment, Your Honor?
Sure. Do you need the light on?
I don't. And we can pull that down.
She's so goddamn biased.
What was your entire analysis predicated on? What was it based on? The foundation of it, as you explained your analysis to Ms. Jury during the course of the day.
The testing by Aperture and the collective reports and PowerPoint presentations by Aperture. That would be an initial report by Mr. Burgess, an initial PowerPoint by Dr. Welcher, and a supplemental report by Mr. Burgess.
Did you change any of their data?
No,
Did you change any of their analyses?
no,
Did you explain their analyses?
yes.
Sustained, ask it to.
Oh,
What were you trying to do in terms of your presentation, in your PowerPoint, and the presentation to the jury?
There were a number of different methodologies presented across all of those reports and PowerPoints, and sort of all in different places.
I know,
So my goal
I
was
know.
to bring all of them into one place so we could look at the totality of the data.
You were asked whether the genesis of your analysis relies on knowing the source of the calls, correct? Remember being asked that by Mr. Brennan?
Yes,
The actual genesis of your entire opinion is based on Mr. Burgess's and Mr. Welcher's analyses, correct?
that's correct.
You were also asked why you believed Mr. Burgess did a quote unquote more detailed report in May versus January of 2025. Do you remember being asked that just a few minutes ago?
Yes,
When you presented your analysis, your math, based on Mr. Burgess's January 2025 report, how many of the scenarios indicated, based on his data and his analysis, that the lock event occurred after the text transfer?
all of them.
Thank you. That's all I have, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Brennan.
ah. Question about a phone.
So, Mr. DESOGRA, this demonstrates the danger or the difficulty.
Hold on.
This is a speech, not a
Start,
question.
start the
It's
question
cross-examination.
differently.
It is, it has to be a question.
Start. Go ahead, Mr.
This demonstrates the difficulty in giving opinions when you don't actually study the data itself. Isn't that fair to say?
No.
What are you referring to with this?
Well, you're giving opinions, but you can't verify any of the data because you're not relying on your study of the data, are you?
I'm relying on expert reports.
You're criticizing somebody's report, but you yourself can't defend data that you haven't actually analyzed and broken down yourself.
I don't
No,
think
but
that's
there's
true.
an expectation
When
from an
you're
expert.
looking at, turn 10, please. When you're looking at someone's report, you're guessing as to what they thought or presumed if you haven't spoken to them.
No,
Fair?
no.
I would say I'm reading the words that are in front of me and interpreting them for what they say.
When someone plugs their iPhone into a car after it turns on, and the car reads data that's on the iPhone, that data then resides on the entertainment system, correct?
There's a transfer of data.
And
Yes.
so unless you actually do the study yourself, you had no way of knowing if that information, although on the iPhone, on the infotainment system, you had no idea whether it was from an iPhone or from the infotainment. Fair?
That's right. I don't think that's,
And so when you
No.
don't actually do the work yourself, and you just
Oh.
presume or you guess, you could get it wrong, couldn't you?
if I had guessed, yes, but I didn't guess. I used the data in the reports and I referenced the testing that Aperture did. So I did not make a guess.
1 through 5, and you telling me right now, with a reasonable degree of data certainty, that that information is based on the infotainment clock. Is that what you're saying?
I don't know.
You don't know. But if you actually did the analysis yourself rather than just.
Oh my God.
Objection.
So I'm going to strike it, ask it differently,
If
Mr.
you
Brown.
actually did the analysis yourself, you wouldn't have to make a presumption that it would be wrong, correct?
I don't think the analysis was possible in this case because the testing wasn't done in this case.
You don't know if the testing was done or not.
Objection, Your Honor.
So I need to hear the question.
You don't know if the testing was done or not, do you?
I know it's in the reports. The testing wasn't in the reports.
Did you read Jessica Hyde's report?
No,
Did you read Ian Whitman's report?
no,
You don't know if that testing was done, do you?
I don't.
Objection, Your Honor.
I'm going to let that stand.
I do not, sir.
And so if you're wrong, your assumptions and product are then wrong.
Part of my conclusions would change. I wouldn't agree that I'm wholesale wrong.
Well, as a scientist, if they're not accurate, that would be wrong, wouldn't it?
That might be a nuanced answer.
I'm sorry?
I said that might be a nuanced answer. Frankly, I'm not sure how to give you a good answer to that
If
question.
you have
I
the
knew
wrong
on-
data when you're doing your analysis, then the final analysis is going to be wrong. If you have using the wrong data, it's that simple.
Yes,
Yeah,
You
if
have to
the
be a
data
scientist to
said
figure
he was
that out.
wrong.
yes, that's,
Okay. If we could have Mr. Welcher's 33.
I'd like a 22 up your ass. Oh, I said that out loud, didn't I?
If you could open that up, please. You were asked about whether the window is within the time frame of 12/32/09, the last user interaction with the phone. When you look at this data, could you go to the top, please? You see on vehicle speed, the car is moving. You see that? Could you enlarge that a little bit, please? The beginning of that data capture, the car's already moving, correct?
I see vehicle speeds, right, in those first couple of lines. Yes.
Yes?
Yes, I see
Yes.
vehicle speed.
If you go to the bottom, at the end, the car is still moving. Yes?
I see vehicle speeds there as well.
2361. That would indicate, in your experience with text stream data, the car is still moving. Yes?
At the end of the record, there is a vehicle speed. The car is moving. That would be my assumption.
Okay. And so when you're making your conclusions that something's with or without, you're simply talking about the time of the 10 seconds of data. Yes?
Yeah, everything that I've done has been referencing the end of event 1162-2, which is exactly how it's been referenced in all of the other reports.
That 10-second window. Yes?
Not even the window, just the end. Everything in the Aperture reports talks about the end of event 1162-2. So that's what I used across everything.
And when you say end of event, you're referring just to data, not the actual real life event.
Yeah, absolutely. The end of the recording.
Okay.
Mhm.
And so after that window, 12/32/04 to 12/32/12, you were asked a question about what might have happened 4 seconds later, 12/32/16. Remember you were asked about that?
Yes.
Did you know at 12/32/16 that John O'Keefe's cell phone moved for the last time? Did you know that?
No.
And between 12/32,
What's that got to do with it? What?
which is in the 10-second window, and 12/32/16, do you know what John O'Keefe was doing in that 4-second period?
No.
Do you know if he was walking?
No.
Do you know if he was crawling?
No.
Do you know if he was falling?
No.
You don't.
Oh,
I do not know.
what the fuck?
Okay?
12/32/16 wasn't just that Mr. O'Keefe's phone was moving, but the steps did.
I didn't review the phone data, so I don't know.
Objection.
So that's sustained.
You were asked just a second ago. What about the data? What was wrong? Can you be wrong, correct?
Generally, yes.
Garbage in, garbage out. Basic scientific postulate, correct?
Generally, yes.
You're relying on whose data?
Mr. Burgess's data and Dr. Welcher's data.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. DeSogra, you are all set, sir. So you can step down. I'm going to see counsel for a minute. Jurors, feel free to stand up and stretch if you'd like.
What is the time? So it's only 3:30 in the afternoon there. Holy crap, it feels like longer than that. Way longer than that. And if you imagine if Hank's going to come in that hard and that fucking off center with Disogra, he is going to go ape on the Arca. And I hope they shove it to him. I wonder who'll be next. Well, I don't know. 3:30, you would think so, because they've said it's a full day today. So they've got, what, an hour and a half? They'll take away, 15-minute recess now, just to see if the next witness is ready. That's what I would assume they're doing now. In my opinion, I think the jury should have been sequestered for this entire trial. It's hard when you've got that witness. That's why Hanks left the defence to call Proctor, because you're limited. You can't ask leading questions because you've got the direct examination. It's your witness. And he can ask the leading questions.
All right, jurors, we did that to have me decide whether I'm going to let you go home now or not, and I'm going to let you go home. So that 5 minutes after stop means that you get to go home, because we know we'll be longer and we don't want to do this to you, okay? So we'll break for the day. I have to give you those same cautions. Please do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent research or investigation into this case. If you have
Yum.
hear or read anything about the case,
Ice
please
cream.
disregard it and let us know. Additional caution, please be very careful. Continue to be careful with your social media use. We will see you Monday. Monday will be a full day. And we'll start right around 9 on Monday morning. So we'll see you then. Have a great week.
Please rise for the jury.
It sounded like they were going to have some out of presence of the jury discussions. I think. Didn't she say that? I'm sure she said, I've still got some things to discuss with the lawyers.
We'll come back. I'll come back in 5 minutes for the voir dire.
Voir dire, yeah, I told you.